Hey guys. Here's part 3 of What If Naruto Became a Jedi Knight. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 37. Anko growled as the speeder's engine gave up a very brutal sound, but taking a blaster round would do that. You have to admit it was fun, Kushina said to her older sister. Corrective statement, it was glorious. HK added his opinion. Haku, who sported a smudge on her cheek, looked at Anko. You have to admit, that swoop gang won't mess with anyone again. Anko growled. What's wrong? Her twin asked. I didn't get to bust heads. She pouted, struggling to keep the speeder in the air and make it back to the temple. Flashback. The place they had hidden in to avoid the police had unfortunately been home to one of the many swoop gangs that lived in the lower levels of the city. Well boys, look what we got here. One of the Rhodians taunted. Should we let Zero in on this? Another asked. Nah. This is our territory, and we got us some girls here that I bet would catch a profit as a joy girl when they get a bit older. The Namikaze daughters narrowed their eyes. HK. Kushina said as she pulled out some wire her father had given her recently. Young mistress? The droid asked, its red optic seemed to narrow. Shoot their left kneecaps out. The nearest Rodian screamed as HK moved faster than any droid they'd ever seen before, and the sound of a blaster going off echoed in the area. Haka leapt from her seat, her hands in motion. Where there had been one dark-haired girl, now had a dozen. Each one pulled out shuriken and launched them, calling out for Kage shuriken, and hundreds of shuriken struck several of the gang, while others had ducked behind swoop bikes after the first shot from HK. The protection didn't save them as Haku and Kushina, trained in the ninja arts, were carving a path of destruction in their ranks using taijutsu and a variety of kunai, shuriken, and in Kushina's case mano wire. HK was standing in the back of the speeder, his shots dropping target after target. Granted, he was shooting out kneecaps, but he would shoot both knees out, content in the knowledge he was following orders. After all, young mistress didn't say not to shoot both knees. The droid thought as it fired again. Anko wasn't happy. She was pinned down and unable to leave the safety of the seat. She was ducked down using the dashboard as cover. She heard the hood take a beating and swore as smoke rose up. Sith spawn. We'll need to fix that, Anko thought. HK. Target those idiots shooting up the speeder, she ordered. Compliance, the assassin droid said with a hint of glee as it turned the assault rifle towards the group using support pillars as cover. Eat hot lasers, meat sacks, HK intoned, and then to the surprise of the swoop gangsters used the grenade launcher and sent a frag grenade into their midst. Anko peeked over the dash, seeing the carnage and the remaining swoop gang members fleeing while her sisters stood there smirking. Ah man, she whined even as Kushina hurried over to the speeder and started working on the wreck, having Haku get parts from the scattered swoop bikes. End flashback. I didn't get to do anything, Anko whined again. Kushina is better with fixing machines than us, Haku said to her twin sister. But I wanted to fight, Anko said as the temple came into view. You can have the next fight, Haku said to placate her sister. She sent the signal to the hangar controls, and the speeder limped in and landed with a clank. Anko sighed, and the three Namikaze children slipped from the speeder and were sneaking along and froze, seeing their mother standing there with her arms crossed. Anko, it's your turn, Kushina said. Jedi Temple, Council Chamber. Disturbing this is, Yoda said as Naruto and Obi-Wan gave their report. Revan and I have Senator Amidala in our quarters, Naruto said. After returning to the consulate, they had packed her up, and with Typho and the double remaining there. Wise it is, surrounded by Jedi she will be, Yoda agreed. Troubling it is that the attacker was someone you knew. Naruto nodded. Mandalorians were very particular on who wore their armor, and that armor belonged to the adopted son of Jaster Muriel, Jango Fett. Revan and I plan on looking into it. We were hoping to have Obi-Wan escort the senator somewhere safe. Yoda, Mace Windu, and Kagan Jean exchanged looks. Believe you do that the attempts on the senator aren't finished? Yoda inquired. Naruto nodded. Whomever can afford a Mandalorian as an assassin or a broker to hire assassins won't give up. Those Kahuns were too damn close, Naruto said, identifying the large centipede creatures. It would be best if we kept her on the move and away from the core at this time. She won't like that, Obi-Wan said, speaking up. Senator Amidala is adamant to be here for the vote about the military bill that is being brought up before the gathered Senate. Naruto bit his lip to keep from picking on his friend about his near-familiar address of Senator Amidala. It would be prudent to get her off planet, Kagan said. But I doubt she would listen to us. She is rather stubborn, he said, shooting a look to his former Padawan to see the younger man nod. Perhaps the Chancellor could convince her, Mei said. Naruto winced. He wanted nothing to do with the man but agreed. He does have the authority to order her off planet. However, I believe we shouldn't trust him with the location. Yoda paused. You and Revan still feel something? Naruto nodded. It wasn't just the man's influence on Anakin, but Revan's own feelings about the man. How about we suggest she go to Naboo, but in fact Ben and the Senator go elsewhere? You have somewhere in mind? Kagan asked. Naruto nodded. I need to speak with Revan, but it could work. Yoda closed his eyes and they could feel him consulting the Force. Agreed. Speak with the Chancellor, I will. Keep hidden and safe the Senator must be. Namikaze Chambers, Jedi Temple. Padme nearly laughed when she realized she and the children were nearly identical and pouting as they sat before the pacing Jedi Master. Just what in the name of the Force were the three of you thinking? She said, stopping and looking at her daughters who had the grace to look ashamed. HK was currently recharging in the next room. Revan had ordered him to power down. She did not want his exuberant answers at this point in time. We just wanted to get out of the temple, Enko said, looking mulish, a look Revan had seen on Naruto's face when he dug his feet in. This speeder is going to be in the repair shop for weeks. What did you three do this time? Declare war on the Bathans? Three voices carried out this time, talking at once. Enough! Revan said, using the big head jutsu she learned back on Ibanez all those years ago. Too long ago, Revan thought. And besides, the Bathans deserved what we did last time, Enko said. Revan shivered thinking of the three children before her adding hair dye to the Bathans' drinks, and all of them becoming plaid. Shaking her head, she looked at Enko, technically the eldest. Do you three know that several of the masters are calling for your expulsion from the temple for the latest pranks you pulled? She looked at Haku and Kushina as well. Destroying a training room, a pillow war in the meditation chamber, and the time-delayed laundry soap in the room of 1,000 fountains. At this all three shared a look. Not to mention running away from Master Yoda, destroying the hangar doors and a speeder. I shudder to think of the laws you broke outside the temple. Her daughters shared a look. Revan turned to look at Padme. And you? Me? Padme said, looking surprised. Not going to the panic room after a near attack. Arguing with Captain Typho. I swear if you were my daughter I'd... What? Padme demanded. The twins and Kushina watched as their mother turned towards the young woman they considered family. Turn you over my knee. I know your folks rarely did that to you and your sister, but I swear you need it. A chuckle had all of them turned to see Naruto leaning against the wall. You might want to let Ben spank her. Both Padme and Obi-Wan blushed at mental images they both had. Daddy! Three voices filled the air and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze found himself being hugged by his three precious children. Done getting in trouble for the month? He asked. All three girls looked at him innocently. Yeah, that works so well, Naruto said, musing their hair. I invented that look long before you were born. He looked at Revan. So, what's the verdict? Grounded, she said. How was your meeting? Naruto looked at Revan, then at Padme. Yeah, about that. Chapter 38. Enko Namikaze grunted as she continued to balance on her thumb and index finger. Across the room, Haku was doing the same thing while Kushina was stuck writing a report about the Jedi Code as well as the Ninja Code of Conduct and the differences between the two. Padme Amidala stood her back to the room looking out the bay window. When Naruto told them of what the council was thinking, she'd protested loudly about leaving when the vote was days away. Her protests continued until she'd been called to a meeting with the Supreme Chancellor and ordered to surrender to the protection of the Jedi. The Chancellor hoped she enjoyed her time back on Naboo. Once she was back in the Namikaze rooms in the temple, she learned that she wasn't going to Naboo. That had been a false trail. Revan returned and looked at her children and sighed. Padme, she called. What did you find? The senator asked. I checked on the dart that Django used. I'm going to a place near the Rishi Maze, on a world called Kamino. Padme frowned. Kamino? I never heard of it. Is it part of the Republic? Revan shook her head. Obi-Wan spoke to his friend Dexter. He used to travel the Outer Rim. Revan explained. But there's more. The world and the space around have been removed from the Jedi archives. What does that mean? Padme asked. Revan looked at her daughters. All right, you three. Go wash up, she said, and all three filed from the room quickly, hoping that complying would get them off their punishments quicker. Once they were gone, Revan turned back to Padme and spoke. It means that the temple had been infiltrated and someone removed it from the archives. Padme swallowed at this. Someone skilled enough to walk into the heart of the Jedi Temple and do that. They were very powerful and dangerous. Well, can I know where I'm going to be hiding out, since it's not going to be back at Naboo? Revan smiled. Naruto is setting things up, you just need to be patient. Padme sighed, then perked up in thought. Naruto's homeworld? No, too far away. It would take more than a year of traveling at lightspeed without stops to get there. Revan thought of her own travel to and from Ibanez and her return to Coruscant all those years ago. There are times I think I want to take my family and return to that primitive world just to keep them safe from the darkness that is rising in the galaxy. Revan thought. She'd been very careful not to put the location of Ibanez in the archives to the annoyance of several of the masters, but with Master Yoda's approval. If I don't know where I'm going, I won't know what to pack. Padme tried again, causing Revan to smirk. Nice try. But I've packed for you. She looked back towards where the children are. You won't be alone with Obi-Wan, I'm afraid, she said, seeing the younger woman blush. The three imps and HK are going to be with you while Naruto and I are splitting up as well. Padme blinked at this. Why? Revan sighed as she heard the girls arguing over who splashed who. I'll be tracking down Jango, who I've learned has become quite a bounty hunter since the battle for Naboo 10 years ago. I've no clue about the rest of the Mandalorians, and that bothers me. She looked out the window with Padme for a moment. Naruto wants to follow a lead with. With what? Padme asked. Not what, who? Naruto's going to follow Anakin Skywalker next time he leaves. There is much anger in that boy, and it's gotten worse over the years. Padme blinked, trying to place the name. The boy you saved from slavery? Revan nodded. Too many strange events surround him. Either I or Naruto are worried. Temple hangar. Well, this ship checks out, Naruto said, coming down the ramp and looking at Obi-Wan Kenobi looked up, a tad nervous. I can't believe you and Revan are sending us along with the children. Naruto covered his mouth. Not here, he hissed. Then in a normal tone of voice he continued. You'll all enjoy time on Naboo where it's safe. Obi-Wan followed him up the ramp of the Falcon. Once the boarding ramp was closed, Naruto sighed. You'll take that ship, I've got a fighter hidden not far thanks to Dex. Revan will go after Fett. He's going to give her answers if he wants to or not. And you really think Skywalker is part of this? Obi-Wan asked. Naruto nodded. The Chancellor wasn't surprised Padme was attacked the last couple of times, he was surprised she survived. Obi-Wan gave him a look. And Master Yoda agrees with me. Naruto continued, ignoring his friend's look. Now, the children are going with you as cover. And Naruto grinned. And to act as chaperones. Obi-Wan Kenobi gave his longtime friend a flat look. I'm flattered, Naruto said. But I'm married. He headed to the cockpit. I've programmed your destination into the Navi computer. HK will unlock it once you've made the jump to light speed, and it will alter course then. I don't like all this cloak and dagger stuff you and Revan are pulling. Neither do we, Naruto said softly. I would like to just stay home with my children. I've missed large gaps of their life, and this is pissing me off, Naruto said. The two friends were silent for some time. Coruscant Control, this is the Millennium Falcon escorting the Gamma Rasengan. Identify the clear lanes. Falcon heading December 24th, 13 is clear. Good sailing and safe journey to Naboo, the controller said. Revan scowled as she looked at the communications and shut it off. Thanks a lot, asshole. What a way to broadcast. She shook her head. Next to her, Kagan Jin was acting as her navigator. Thanks for coming along, she said as they followed Private Yacht out of the atmosphere. Kagan relaxed as the genjutsu that Revan had covering him vanished. He had looked like Naruto for all to see. And miss out on something that is bound to be more exciting than sitting and meditating, he said, giving her a small smile. Besides, I believe my former Padawan and the senator have the harder task. At her look, he elaborated. They have your children and droid with them. Revan smirked. A light on her console lit up, and she frowned. That was fast, she muttered. Activating the reflectors. She hit the private frequency. Obi-Wan, you better make the jump now. We've got 6 unmarked fighters coming at us at high speed from the equator. Making the jump. May the Force be with you, Master, he said, and moments later the ugly orange yacht made the jump to hyperspace. You want me to man the turret gun? Kagan asked. No need, Revan said, and made a cross seal that the other Jedi had seen Naruto make, and a heartbeat later there were 4 clones of Revan. Battle stations, she ordered. She flipped a switch. Love, one's slipping away. I know. It's Skywalker. He left the Chancellor's office rather quickly. I'm coming up from around the Knight's side. Naruto's voice came back over. I'm on him. Do you need help? Negative. Those fighters are no match for the Falcon. Good hunting, Naruto said as she saw a Jedi starfighter coming from the southern pole and link up with a floating hyperdrive ring. Where did he get that? Kagan asked. Not too many of the craft had been made, and he wasn't aware that Naruto had access to them. A friend. He's got a 2D2 from Padme to help him, Revan said as the Falcon's quad lasers opened fire. She saw the craft jump to lightspeed after another fighter that was black, but it looked similar to the Jedi craft. Strap in, Kagan, Revan said as she had the Falcon performing moves that would make a stunt fighter envious. Hang on back there, she called to her clones as two of them were manning the military-grade quad laser turrets she had applied to the Falcon, while the third was back near the engine, ready to redistribute power. The fourth one was manning the communications and sensors behind Kagan. Kagan Jin winced as Revan turned the gravity compensators down and corkscrewed the Falcon, avoiding incoming freighters and giving the pursuit ships a hell of a running battle. Revan laughed. Come on, you slackers! Is this the best you got? Revan taunted while her clones echoed her. Force help us, Kagan Jin thought as he realized that Revan may be the oldest Jedi Master on record at over 4,000 years. But she acts like a youngling at times. It's scary. You locked onto his engine signature R2? Naruto asked. An affirmative whistle told him that the tracking device he launched had connected and he would be able to find the Chancellor's aide wherever he went. Good. Keep our power output down to 40%. We'll keep our distance for now. R2 whistled and beeped, and Naruto found he liked the little astromech droid a lot. Now, where are you going, Skywalker? Naruto must as they jumped in and out of hyperspace for the next several hours, which was becoming frustrating to Naruto, but thus far Skywalker had yet to land on any planet. What is your game, boy? Naruto thought into the 7th hour. Padme looked at the world as the Gamma Rasengan exited hyperspace. What planet is this again? It's not on any of the star charts. Obi-Wan, who had finally managed to get the 3 Namikaze children settled inside. This is the first stopover. We'll make the next jump in a couple moments. The planet that Naruto and Revan are sending us to isn't listed in any of the Republic databases. It's one Revan knows about. So, what's it called? Padme asked with a hint of exasperation. The world we're going to is called Len. And it was a very important world to Revan 4,000 years ago. Chapter 39. Rakatan System. There it is, Obi-Wan said. He looked at Anko, who had conned him into letting her pilot, and he would admit that all 3 girls flew better than he did on his best day with the help of the Force. So that's the world Mama talks about, Kushina said from her seat near a monitor with Padme. Your mom told you about this world? Padme asked. Kushina nodded, while Haku spoke up from another seat. The Rakatans are extinct now. It's home mostly to Gizka and Rancor. Be careful of the asteroids, Obi-Wan said from the co-pilot's seat. Those aren't asteroids, Uncle Ben, Haku said. It's wreckage from the battles that took place here. It's a graveyard, Haku said, lowering her head, her hair hanging over her eyes. 4,000 years and no one's cleaned this up, Padme said in surprise. Kushina spoke up next. It's not that. Back then the Republic wanted to cover up the events around Mama's redemption. It was hard for them to explain, as many in that time didn't understand it. Anko snorted. They made it a historical site, but over time and wars its records were destroyed, and since it's off the used routes. She shrugged as her hands moved calmly over controls. The wreckage is like a belt of asteroids, and the surface shouldn't be much better. Most likely it's been overrun by the jungle, Haku supplied. You 3 know a lot about this world, Obi-Wan said in surprise. Kushina smiled. Mama said it was best to know about her past, so she taught us about the world she's visited and the numerous species. That's very impressive, Padme said, giving Kushina a hug. The 8-year-old accepted it and smiled. Anko shook her head as she maneuvered the yacht with ease through the field of debris. Obi-Wan and Padme looked at the wreckage of ancient Republic cruisers and Sith ships. The wreckage in a higher orbit towards the sun was the Starforge, Haku said, continuing while watching her twin fly. It was built by the Rakatans and later used by the Sith Lords Revan and then Malak to build a massive fleet from where they nearly conquered the known galaxy at the time. Obi-Wan always felt a chill with how easily the Namikaze spoke of Revan's fall and then her redemption. It's like they're discussing yesterday's pod races, he thought. As they skimmed the atmosphere, Padme rose and stood behind Obi-Wan, putting a hand to his shoulder. They both looked out the canopy and smiled as the sun shone on the crystal blue waters. Some of the downed ships made new isles and reefs, Haku said as they flew over wreckage that was overgrown with vegetation. There, Obi-Wan said, pointing at a large enclosed beach. Anko nodded as she brought the Gamma Raisin gun in, the retro thrusters firing as she lowered the landing struts. Kushina, go power up HK, Haku told her sister. I'll get the scrolls with the camping gear. Anko sighed as she powered down the engines. Orders, Master Kenobi? She asked, looking at Obi-Wan. Well, he stroked his beard. While the others set up, we'll patrol the area and set up defenses, he said to Anko, who grinned and watched as she unstrapped and went to get her gear. Is that a good idea? Padme worried. Obi-Wan looked at her and grinned. I'd be more worried for anything we encounter. Naruto and Revan have taught them well. Naruto told me that his daughters would have graduated early from the Ninja Academy on his world and already been doing missions that we assign masters and Padawan teams. Padme blinked and grabbed his arm to stop him. You be careful, she pleaded. Obi-Wan nodded and took her hand in his. We'll be fine. Don't worry. He squeezed her hand to reassure her and headed towards the back of the ship. Padme watched him until he and Anko were entering the forest, and Haku called her over to show her how storage scrolls worked. Space. Naruto scowled as he saw Skywalker's ship make another jump. It was tiring as Naruto was forced to jump and make a micro-jump to realign the readings before he followed the beacon on Skywalker's ship. I hope Rev and the others are having more fun, he thought as he made another jump, and he vowed to never fly a starfighter again. They are just too damned cramped. Millennium Falcon. Revan saw they had several hours left in transit and went to get a mug of tea. She saw Kagan was asleep on the bench. She knew the man was in his 70s, and unlike her and Naruto, he tired easily. Status? She turned and saw his eyes were closed, but she should have known better. But she didn't rely on the Force like many Jedi did. On her ship and in the temple it was more of a passive use. Another hour in hyperspace. I've searched the databases I have and I don't recall Kamino, but then in 4,000 years I've been to a lot of places. Kagan sat up. Your contact, did he have anything of use? Revan smirked. You mean Dex? Kagan Jin blinked then laughed. I should have known. Anyway, he's the one who identified the dart's origin. We get to Kamino and will most likely fin Django. You try contacting the Mandalorians? Kagan asked. I sent the signal, but there was no reply. Which isn't unusual. They could be anywhere in the galaxy doing Force knows what, Revan said. Kagan got his own tea and sat down. I've been meaning to ask, Kagan said. You've spoken with Yoda about Obi-Wan being master to the twins. What are your thoughts for Kushina? Revan sipped her tea. I know I can't be her master. And Naruto has taught them a lot of his ninja training. He says they could have graduated from the Ninja Academy by now, and Kushina would be an early release, what they call a prodigy, though Naruto, and I hate that word. Revan sipped her tea again, using the time to gather her thoughts. If I may? Kagan asked. She nodded. We have a youngling that I believe would benefit under yours and Naruto's care. I'll introduce you to her after this is settled, but for Kushina, I know I might be on in years. Revan smiled. I could think of no one better. She does like to take things apart. Kagan smiled. I do recall hearing her adventure in the archives. Jocasta knew was not pleased with the disassembly of some of the library computers. Revan smiled and remembered the librarian scolding her, and then Kushina about decorum inside the archives. Naruto and I are always keeping an eye on her. She had HK in pieces in the living room recently. Kagan laughed at this. The image of the assassin droid being stripped down would have been something he would have liked to see. Kagan and many of the masters felt unease around the droid, especially when it went on to name and tell stories of some of its past kills. Many Jedi were listed from 4,000 years ago. I know, Revan said, and when Kagan looked at her she explained. HK makes many in the temple nervous, but he is loyal and is the only friend I have from my past that isn't a holocron. I made him, he's been my companion for so long. I admit his personality still needs work. I made him when I was a Sith Lord and I've modified his programming a lot since then. But there are some quirks I just can't seem to get rid of. I guess in his own way HK has become sentient. Revan shrugged. Maybe the Force had a hand in it, maybe something else. But HK has a destiny still, I feel. Kagan nodded. He had seen some of the knights train against the droid in the temple, and he had to admit it did push them to new limits. Mace tried to beat HK, and the first 2 times he lost, Revan said. Heck, I built him, and there are times HK surprises me. Naruto has taught him some things over the years and added to his arsenal. Kagan shuddered and looked up at a flashing light on a nearby console. Time to get to work, Revan said as she flicked the switch and headed for the cockpit. Kagan followed and was sitting down when Revan accepted the message. Rev? I don't know if you get this. I'm above a world called Geonosis. Skywalker has landed there. I've done a quick scan. There are a lot of Trade Federation ships on the surface. I'm going in for a look. The message cut out and Revan scowled as something pricked the back of her mind, telling her Naruto was walking into danger. You better be careful, she muttered as she checked, and they were entering the system where Kamino was supposed to be. Hang on, Revan said to Kagan, but her thoughts were with her husband and children. Rakatan World, Len. Run! Anko yelled as she rushed into the dense foliage. Obi-Wan heard the roar and knew that he was not going to enjoy this. Get a move on, Uncle! He followed Anko and they took many twists and turns. Behind them they could hear something rather large crashing through the jungle behind them. Anko, what did you do? Obi-Wan asked, his strides keeping pace with the younger girl. He could feel her using chakra to enhance her muscles and watched as she leapt ahead again. I was just looking. I swear, Anko said as they burst from the foliage and slid to a stop at the edge of a cliff. Not good, Obi-Wan muttered. Looking down they saw the Gamma Rasengan parked on the beach. We took a wrong turn, Anko muttered. She saw her sisters had placed the electric barrier over the entrance to the path they had used. Suggestions, Master? Anko said as they heard the crashing get louder. Now you're being proper? He said, looking at her, and Anko shrugged. Obi-Wan muttered that she acted a lot like her father, which got him a rather foxy grin like her father's. The roar was closer. You had to tickle a sleeping rancor, he said with exasperation. It was cute when it was asleep, Anko protested. As the rancor cleared the jungle foliage, Obi-Wan grabbed Anko and leapt over the side of the cliff, Anko laughing the whole way down and asking if they do this again. Just like her father, Obi-Wan thought as he landed, kicking up a lot of sand as he'd used the Force to cushion their fall. He looked up and saw no sign of the rancor and thanked the Force that it had likely given up. Obi-Wan? He turned to see Padme coming from the shade of the Gamma Rasengan. She was carrying a blaster. We're fine. Anko tried to adopt a rancor is all. Anko crossed her arms. Nothing wrong with that. Dad's got. Haku was there and covered her twin's mouth with her hand before whispering in her ear. Obi-Wan cocked an eyebrow. Ninja secrets, Anko said after her sister released her mouth, not for a desire to do so, but because Anko had licked her palm. Go wash up, Padme said. She looked at Obi-Wan. It seems you can't resist getting into trouble. There was something in her eyes, but for the life of him he couldn't figure it out. So he answered with a shrug and a self-grin. Padme's hand twitched, and she looked like she was going to say something when Kushina called them that dinner was ready. Chapter 40. Rakatan World, Len. Padme wondered how Revan and Naruto did it. She tried keeping up with just Kushina and the child was leaving her in the dust. And they raised all three of them. Padme thought as she watched Obi-Wan sparring with Anko and Haku with practice sabers. She noticed he was wearing a sleeveless shirt and a pair of pants. He does have a cute butt. She thought, remembering a conversation she had with Revan, and the Jedi Master seemed intent on seeing how deep Padme could blush. Kushina, leave HK alone, Padme admonished as the girl had been sneaking up on the droid as it stood guard, its sensors seeking out anything that would threaten the camp. I was. The 8-year-old tried, and Padme shook her head. Your mother made it very clear that you are not to take him apart again, Padme said as she recalled the long list of does and don'ts that the children would try and get away with. Anko was not happy with just the rancor tried to keep one of those killer fish. Padme thought with a shiver. Earlier in the day Anko had conned Obi-Wan into them fishing for fresh fish. The Jedi Knight had agreed and they'd set up on one of the reefs off the beach. It had gone fine until Anko had managed to hook one of the shark-like creatures, and then to the shock of Obi-Wan and Padme the girl dove into the water. Both thought they were going to have to tell Revan and Naruto about the death of their child when Haku rushed past them and reached into the water. An explosion later and Anko was swimming towards shore, dragging the shark that was easily 30 feet. Once it was beached, the adults watched in shock as all three children began skinning, gutting and slicing the shark up with a practiced ease. Haku and Kushina began cooking the meat while Anko then smirked. Wait till I tell Dad the size of this one. Obi-Wan had gone on to lecture mode until Anko told them of some of the trips the family had taken. But Dad let us go hunting with him on the forest floor of Kashyyyk, Anko protested. Obi-Wan paused as he remembered Naruto talking about it, and shook his head. Be that as it may. No more risks like that. You'll give me premature gray hair, and your father is doing that fast enough on his own. Anko promised not to do it without consulting him. Obi-Wan missed that her hands were behind her back. Shaking her head, Padme looked at Kushina. I'm sorry, what was that? The child smiled at her and repeated her question. When are you and Uncle Ben going to get married? Padme sputtered. He's my friend. She finally got out. Kushina looked at her. So? Mama and Daddy are friends. Padme blinked, and she didn't want to admit that a child of 8 was breaking apart her carefully thought of excuses that she made over the past decade. He's a Jedi Knight, she said. So? Mom's a Jedi Master and Daddy is a Jedi Knight and a Neo-Sanin as well as former Hokage. Padme didn't know what the last two were, but she was right. Naruto had been given the rank of Jedi Knight after the battle for Naboo, knighted by Master Yoda himself. Your dad and mom follow the old code, Padme countered. Kushina waved a hand. They aren't really important, you know. They're more like guidelines. Kushina had disassembled all the defenses that Padme had developed between her and Obi-Wan over the last 10 years. Her safety net wiped out faster than the three kids ate those strange packets of noodles that they had gotten from Dex's diner before they'd left. Kushina skipped away, allowing Padme to think. The former queen of Naboo looked out and watched Obi-Wan. As if sensing her thoughts, he paused his instruction of the twins and his blue eyes met hers. He looked at her a moment before giving her a bearded grin. Padme felt her stomach twitch, and she just knew Revan must have put her children up to this. But right now she couldn't find a reason to complain. Kamino. The Millennium Falcon landed amidst the blowing storm. Revan looked out as she powered the ship down. I hate water planets, she muttered. Her time on Manan had not been pleasant for her time as a Sith Lord or a redeemed Jedi. It could be worse, Kagan said. How so? It could be a volcanic world. Shaking her head, Revan gave him a look. Remind me to tell you that your optimism needs work. Kagan chuckled as she lowered the boarding ramp. Rain, go away. Revan hummed the tune she had learned while on Ibanez. What was that? Kagan asked as they pulled up the hoods of their robes and ran towards the docking pad's doors, splashing with each step. Nursery rhyme, Revan said as the doors opened and they were greeted by one of the long-necked Kaminoans. Revan flapped her hood back and shook the rain from her as best she could while Kagan did the same. The short distance from the ship to the doors had them soaked. Welcome to Tipoca City, Master Jedi. I am Tonwi. Revan and Kagan wiped the rain from their faces and blinked at the tall pasty white with large almond-shaped eyes. Everything is ready. The Prime Minister expects you, Tonwi informs them. Revan and Kagan exchange looks before Revan asks warily. We're expected? Tonwi tips her head. Of course. He is anxious to see you. After all these years, we were beginning to think you weren't coming. Now please, this way. The pair of Jedi masked their surprise and moved down the corridor, following Tonwi cautiously. The door slides open and Tonwi enter, followed by the Jedi, and cross to where Lama Su, the Prime Minister, rises, smiling from behind his desk. May I present Lama Su, Prime Minister of Kamino? Tonwi says, making the introductions. And this is Master Jedi. She frowns, realizing that she didn't get the names of the Jedi. Revan smiles and steps forward and gives a slight bow. Revan Namikaze, and my companion is Jedi Master Kagan Jin, she says, making the introductions for them. Lama Su motions. Please have a seat, indicating a pair of chairs. The Jedi take their seats while Tonwi hovers. The room is bathed in brilliant white light and the pair notice the high-tech look to the room. I trust you are going to enjoy your stay here. We are most happy that you have arrived at the best part of the season, Lama Su said. Best part of the season? Revan thought, thinking of the rain and wind. I officially am taking this world off my place to visit list, she thought. Kagan answered for them when it seemed Revan wasn't going to. You make us feel most welcome, he said from his chair. Lama Su nodded his head. And now, on to business, he said. You will be delighted to hear we are on schedule. 200,000 units are ready, with another 1,000,000 on the way. Revan didn't miss a beat. That is good news, she said, improvising. Her ability to lie she blamed on her husband, although she was far older than him and had more experience with it. He loves me and will take the blame for my bad habits, Revan assured herself. Lama Su seemed happy to hear this. Please tell your Master Sifo Dyas that we have every confidence his order will be met on time and in full. He is well, I hope? Revan blinked. I'm sorry, Master. Jedi Master Sifo Dyas. He's still a leading member of the Jedi Council, is he not? Revan felt Kagan tense. Oh yes, Sifo Dyas. Lama Su seemed pleased and rose from his seat. You must be anxious to inspect the units for yourself. Revan stood as well. That's why we are here, she said. He glanced at Kagan, told him to follow her lead for now until they knew more of what was going on. Geonosis. Naruto had left his borrowed starfighter in a valley some distance away from the coordinates he'd gotten. He was using the mountains to make his way, smirking as he used the chakra-enhanced leap to carry him over a large gorge. He landed and blinked at what he saw in the next valley. Fuck. That summed it up when he saw nearly 100 battle droid control ships. He studied the canyons and he knew from his flyby that the minerals in the rocks protected anything on the ground from being scanned. It's an army. The Republic is so boned. He looked towards where the Force was telling him Skywalker was, and he made a hard choice. He turned back towards where his starfighter was parked. He had to make a long-distance call. Chapter 41. Geonosis. Certain you are? Yoda's holographic image asked. Yes, masters, Naruto said. There are hundreds of droid-controlled ships, an army that is poised to strike the Republic. And of young Skywalker? Yoda inquired. I don't know. He's here somewhere, and while I'd like to jump to the conclusion he's part of this, and it's what my gut is telling me, without facts I am unsure. Mace Windu spoke up. Skywalker is attached to the office of the Supreme Chancellor. Perhaps he is here trying to prevent a misunderstanding. Naruto didn't say anything. Ever since he'd seen Anakin again, his gut was screaming at him, and the look in the boy's eyes reminded him of Sasuke when his former teammate would look at him after he'd awoken his Sharingan. Master's eye. Naruto paused as he heard rocks shifting. He managed to spin away at the last second as a blaster bolt hit his ship where his head had been. Drawing his lightsaber, he deflected several more shots, and it was then that he saw the destroyer droids around the ridge. Shit! Naruto created a dozen clones, each holding a lightsaber and deflecting shots. He turned back towards his ship in time to see it explode under a hail of blaster fire. Damn, Ben's never gonna let me borrow his ship again, Naruto said as he ducked another hail of blaster fire. His clones were being slowly overwhelmed, and Naruto recalled the lightsabers as they fell. Gathering his chakra, he performed a vertically leap that took him out of the canyon where he had parked his ship. Behind him, the battle droids and destroyer droids giving chase at their own pace. I hope Revan and the others are safe, he thought, ducking as another blaster shot came very close. Coruscant, Jedi Temple. Disturbed of what we just witnessed I am, Yoda said after the transmission had been cut off and they'd caught a glimpse of a battle droid. We need to mount a rescue operation, Mace Windu said, his hands gripping his chair. Also to Kagan and Revan should we go. This clone army built in secret is most disturbing, Yoda said. Shrouded in the dark side this is. Mace nodded. I'll lead the rescue of all available masters and knights to Geonosis. To Kamino shall I go? This army needs to be looked at closer, Yoda said. Mace gave him a grin. Which means you get to explain to Revan what's happening with Naruto. Yoda gave him a flat stare. Funny this is not. Tell her I will that you have something to tell her I will. Mace gave him a look. You wouldn't dare. Yoda slid off his chair and was making for the council room door. Master? Mace called after him. Some of the other masters chuckled. That's cold, Mace said as he went to gather all available knights and masters for his mission. I do not envy anyone that delivers that message, one of the masters said. My question, who impersonated Master Cedo Dias to get these clones? The remaining masters looked concerned with this even more than the current crisis on Kamino and Geonosis. Kamino, Topolka City Clone Center Barracks. Revan looked down at the clones. Kagan had sent a coded report to the council, but her eyes were on the face she knew, older, more worn, but it was a face she wouldn't forget. Canderous? She whispered. We was talking about growth acceleration but stopped hearing the Jedi speak. What was that, Master Jedi? Where did you get the genetic material for the clones? She asked. Tonwi's large eyes blinked. From a bounty hunter named Jango Fett. The only thing he wanted in payment was a clone of himself, unaltered or accelerated. Revan looked at the face of her old friend and growled. Jango. How could you? Would it be possible to meet this bounty hunter? Revan asked, ignoring Kagan as he came back from making his report to the council. I would be most happy to arrange a meeting for you, Tonwi said before giving a short bow and walking away. Revan looked at the clones and her hand clenched. She took a deep breath and vowed to wipe the floor with Jango for what he's done with the legacy of Clan Ordo. Revan? Qui-Gon's soft-spoken inquiry dragged her from her thoughts. I knew the original. He would not be happy to see this, she said, gesturing to the clones. Where would they get a sample? Kagan asked. The Mandalores, when they die, would leave a genetic sample with the clans, which was then stored in a secret location. Revan wanted to destroy the clones. It was wrong. But first I'll deal with Jango. Her fist was clenched, and unnoticed by both Jedi, a pipe nearby was being crushed by an invisible force. Tepoka City, Clone Center Classroom. You mentioned growth acceleration? Kagan said after Lama Su joined them, and the tour continued. Revan had remained quiet since seeing the barracks. They were looking at young boys, all clones of Canderous Ordo. Revan mentally thought her old friend was a cute kid. Oh yes, it's essential. Otherwise a mature clone would take a lifetime to grow. Now we can do it in half the time. Those items you saw on the parade ground in your earlier tour were started 10 years ago, when Sifo-Dyas first placed the order, and as you can see they're already mature. Revan looked at the boy clones, but kept silent. Items? They're living, breathing people, she thought, not liking how the Kaminoans talked about the clones that were wearing the face of her long-dead friend. And these? Kagan asked, gesturing towards the 10-year-olds. Lama Su looked at the classroom. About 5 years ago. He motioned them on, and the next part of the tour led them to the hatchery, as it was called. It was filled with great racks of glass spheres, which are filled with fluid in which embryos are suspended. Lama Su spoke with pride as they gazed at the embryos. They're immensely superior to droids, capable of independent thought and action. Impressive, Kagan said after looking at Revan when it was obvious she wasn't going to speak. Lama Su nodded. I'd hoped you would be pleased. Revan looked at the nearest embryos. Tell me, Prime Minister, when my master, Sifo-Dyas, first contacted you, did he say the order was for himself or? Revan asked carefully. Lama Su blinked. Himself? Of course not. This army is for the Republic. Revan and Kagan both blink. The Republic? Kagan asked for clarification. We are also very much against this Count Dooku and his secessionist movement. We are proud to be of help to the Republic, Lama Su said proudly. The pair of Jedi felt something cold grip them at this. Tepoka City Apartments. We had rejoined them as their escort, and shows Kagan and Revan to their room. I have arranged for you to meet Jango Fett in the morning. Sleep well. We informs them before leaving, the door sliding shut behind him. Kagan looks around, satisfied when the Force doesn't discover any listening devices. Revan? She shook her head. Something's wrong, I can't feel Naruto suddenly. She looked at Kagan. What did the council say? Rakatan World, Len. Anko, get back here this instant. Obi-Wan Kenobi looked up the beach to see Anko and Haku rushing out of the ship and shook his head. What have they done now? He thought, then mentally smacked himself for setting himself up for whatever answer the Force gave him. Padme came out of the ship next, and the Jedi Knight felt his skin grow warm as her long pale legs ate up the distance between her and the children of Revan and Naruto. Obi-Wan took a moment to study the senator from Naboo, something he'd been doing more and more. The wrap-around skirt she wore along with the simple top showed Obi-Wan Kenobi a lot of tantalizing and in his mind forbidden flesh. The laughter of the Namikaze children reached him, and he realized they were holding some sort of hollow projector. You two give me that this instant, Padme said, and Obi-Wan shook his head as the twins played keep away, tossing the handheld recorder/projector just out of the senator's reach. Too late, he realized their game was heading towards him, and he was unable to move as Padme leapt to grab the object out of the air and crashed into him, taking them both down to the sand, Padme atop of Obi-Wan. Haku and Anko giggled, and then she pushed a button on the recorder, and the image of Padme appeared, and Obi-Wan realized it was her personal journal. Another day on Len, and this planet is a virtual untouched paradise. Padme's recorded image spoke. He felt Padme go absolutely still, and as he gazed at her he saw a blush on her cheeks form. And another day looking at the man that I have wanted for 10 years, but duty, his and mine, have gotten in the way. I see him and I know a Jedi is forbidden from love, or that's what I used to believe. Revan and Naruto have shown that to be a farce. Padme had her eyes closed when the recording started, but slowly opened her eyes to see Obi-Wan wasn't looking at the recording, he was staring at her, and there was something in his eyes that captured her own. Obi-Wan. She whispered his name, and while the recording continued to play unnoticed now as Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi had leaned in and kissed Senator Padme Amidala. Several yards away, Haku and Anko smacked hands. Mission accomplished, Anko said with a grin. Not yet, Haku said. But it's a start. Both twins turned to see Kushina with a grin. Here's what we're going to do next. The three Namikaze children huddled, and every so often a giggle could be heard. If Obi-Wan and Padme were paying attention they would shudder, but the pair were lost in the sensations of kissing one another. A rancor could have walked up and they wouldn't have noticed. Back at the ship, -47 Hong Kong dollars watched it all. Statement: terrified emotion should be activated. Young mistresses are causing havoc. Inquiry: uncertain if this unit should be pleased or scared. On the horizon the sun was setting, and the nocturnal life of Len was waking. Chapter 42. Rakatan World. Len. Obi-Wan, where are the girls? Padme asked as she entered the ship's main hold. Padme looked alarmed. How long ago did they say this? Obi-Wan stood and checked a console. Half an hour. Obi-Wan nearly laughed hearing the usually proper senator swear like some of the spacers he'd run into with Naruto. Searching with the Force, he frowned. They aren't on the beach. Padme stamped her foot and headed for his weapons locker. Opening it, she gasped at the array of weapons gathered there. Why are there? Statement: Master does not believe in overkill. Joyous statement: there's only open fire reload. The Jedi and the senator looked at the droid who had managed to sneak up on them. HK, arm yourself. We've got to find the girls, Obi-Wan said. Glorious explanation. I get to kill things. Only if the girls are threatened, the Jedi said, hoping to cut back on the mass destruction the droid could and most likely unleash on the surrounding life and vegetation. He was about to tell Padme to stay with the ship, but she had already holstered a blaster and powered up an assault rifle with a shoulder stray slung over her head and shoulder. Let's go, she said, and Obi-Wan was wondering if Naruto was having more luck. Geonosis. Naruto awoke feeling weightless, and he soon found out why as he was in an electronic cage in which he was suspended. His arms were bound in energy bracers and he felt a collar around his neck. Namikaze, it's nice of you to join us. Naruto was turned in his cage and found himself looking at Ser Dooku, who looked like he did when he left the temple. It was the second cage behind him that surprised Naruto. Anakin? He said towards the unconscious 19-year-old. Yes, the Supreme Chancellor's negotiator failed and the Geonosians weren't impressed with his offer, Dooku said, his hands at his side. Why are you here, Ser? You were last reported to be on Sereno, Naruto said, looking at the former Jedi Master. Dooku gave a helpless shrug. I was asked to come here and help smooth things over. Liar, Naruto thought. It seems like you're not doing that good of a job either. Why aren't you in one of these cages? Dooku gave a chuckle. I was asked here by the Genosian leaders, whereas you and young Skywalker arrived without consent. Naruto continued to spin in his cage, but Dooku walked with him, staying in his line of sight. I am delighted to see you again, Naruto, Ser Dooku said. How are your children? The last time I saw them they were a virtual maelstrom in the Force. Naruto narrowed his eyes. He never liked the attention Dooku paid to his children. They are safe, he said. Dooku cocked an eyebrow as if he expected more. And Revan? Naruto heard the hitch in the man's voice. Gallivanting to all corners of the galaxy, righting wrongs, slaying bad guys. Dooku looked at him. I heard you've been quite successful yourself. You've come a long way since you were brought from your homeworld. Where is it again? Uranus, Naruto said deadpanned. Dooku shook his head. Tell me, Dooku, why are you betraying the Republic? You were a Jedi. Dooku scowled. It is not betraying something that is corrupt and dying. Yeah, who? Yet you and your Geontian friends locked up the representative from the Supreme Chancellor. Dooku gave him a look. The Chancellor means well, but he is incompetent. He had promised to cut the bureaucracy, but the bureaucrats are stronger than ever. My young friend, the Republic cannot be fixed. It is time to start over. The democratic process in the Republic is nothing but a sham, a shell game played on the voters. It will not be long before the cult of greed, called the Republic, will lose even the pretext of democracy and freedom. You expect me to believe that? I will not forsake all my wife and I have honored and worked for, to simply betray the Republic. I've heard of your treaties with the Trade Federation, the Commerce Guilds, and the others. Count, what is happening here is not government that has been bought out by business, it's business becoming government. I've seen it happen before and it's never worked. Dooku looked at him. It's a shame my old apprentice isn't here. Naruto snorted. Kagan Jin would see through the crap you're spewing and reject you as well. He might be a rebel with some of his ideas, but betraying all you know and have fought for is madness. Dooku looked at him. I'm sorry that I won't be able to help you with the Genosians after all. Naruto snorted. I'll be sure to tell Revan and your children when I visit Coruscant that your death wasn't in vain. Naruto narrowed his eyes. You go near my wife and children and they won't ever find your body, he said coldly, and Dooku paused, swallowing as he felt the intent from the trapped blonde and knew he meant every word. Neither noticed the blue eyes watching them from the other cage. Kamino, landing pad. I knew he was going to run the minute we asked to meet him, Revan said as she strode through the white corridors. Kijin followed, and he shook his head when Tonwi returned and told them Django had to leave suddenly. When asked where he was, the wide eyes seemed confused and gave the directions to the landing pad where Fettship was parked. Keep your temper, the Jedi Master said. I'll keep my temper, Revan said. You go and get the Falcon ready to fly. I want to be ready should he skip out on out talk. Kagan took the next left heading for where their ship was parked. Please keep calm, he silently pleaded, but Revan had been displeased seeing the clone army wearing her friend's face. She'd kept it calm so far, but Revan was a Jedi who could use her anger in ways that made the council tremble. It was something he'd said for years that emotions weren't bad, and if channeled properly could do some amazing and wondrous things. Revan and Naruto along with their children are showing that. Kagan smiled as he recalled some of the Jedi Masters and their reactions since Revan's arrival. Landing pad. Revan looked out the door in the torrential downpour to see two figures loading a ship. Django's got himself a ship. Where are the rest of the Mandalorians? Where is your father? She thought as she stepped out, not bothering with her hood as the rain had her robes soaked to the skin. Her hair was plastered to her skull and she saw the rain had concealed the door opening, but the young clone he had to be 8 or 9 was coming down the ramp, spotted her, and called out. Dad! She saw Django turn, and for the first time in a decade their eyes met. He was older, more worn. He was wearing his silver armor, the helmet was off as he was standing under the overhang of his ship. Revan, he said, putting on a very fake and welcoming smile. What brings you all the way out here? Revan walked closer and noticed the boy edging up the ramp. Stay where you are, Runt, Revan ordered, then her eyes landed on Fett. What the hell are you doing, Django? Using Ordo's DNA to clone an army? Django shrugged. Things have changed. What does Jaster think of this? Revan asked. Her eyes saw the boy moving and she was getting annoyed. Stop where you are or I will stop you, she spat in Mando. The boy cocked his head. What? Revan looked at Django in disbelief. You haven't taught him anything Mandalorian? Django shook his head. It's not a life I want for him, and my father died long ago. Revan felt like she'd just been kicked in the chest by Aranto hearing the old Mandalore was dead. What else have I missed in the last 10 years? Shaking herself mentally, she focused on the original. But soaring around the galaxy as a bounty hunter and shooting friends is okay, Revan said back. Django shrugged. It's a life we're making. Why aren't you with your people? If Jaster is dead. I don't want it. Always looking out for some whiny warrior who couldn't find his ass with both hands and a map. I control my life, and in the last decade I've become a damn good bounty hunter. Much like that husband of yours. Revan noticed how he spoke the word husband and remembered 10 years ago. Naruto only goes after the truly guilty. And I told you not to move. She reached out with the force and the boy found himself yanked off his feet by an invisible grip and dangling in the air upside down. Boba! Django said, and was stopped from moving as the hum of a lightsaber could be heard, and he swallowed, seeing the familiar red blade centimeters from his neck. I am not in the mood, Django. I've lost contact with my husband. I just saw a dear friend's eternal slumber disturbed, and I find out the Mandalore that is supposed to be in charge of his people has run away because he has daddy issues. Revan. Save it, Revan growled. You disturbed the final rest of Mandalore Kenderis Ordo, and for what credits? An unaltered clone of yourself? Give me a break. If you wanted a child you should have found a woman and had one. You weren't available, Django said, keeping perfectly still as the blade of the lightsaber didn't even twitch. I'm flattered, but I was married long before we ever met, boy. And the Mandalorians have taken up their homeworld again. We even have a senator. Django said the word with disdain. You're going to talk now, Django, and then if I like what I hear, you and your mini-me can leave. Django looked into the eyes that many called Mandalore, as she had never been beaten or died. I was contacted by a man calling himself Darth Tyrannus. Len. I swear those 3 are going to be the death of me, Obi-Wan said as he led Padme deeper into the jungle, the Force leading him. Don't be overly dramatic. You've said the same thing about Naruto for the last 10 years, the senator said with a grin. Obi-Wan used his lightsaber to cut a path, wondering how the girls managed to move with all the overgrowth. I bet it's some sort of ninja trick that Naruto taught them, the Jedi Knight thought sourly. It is hard enough to teach younglings, but Naruto and Revan's children are more skilled than some fully accredited knights I know. Bearded meatbag, I'm detecting a large grouping of life forms 15 meters ahead. -47 Hong Kong dollars entered the conversation. It was one of the things about the droid that Obi-Wan didn't mind was its sensor package that Revan had installed. The bloodthirstiness and sarcasm I could do without. Why Naruto and Revan love this droid is beyond me. I'm happy with the astromechs, at least they won't shoot you in the ass for amusement. They finally cleared the foliage and Obi-Wan stopped cold. Oh dear! The clearing was filled with nearly 100 rankers. At the far end of the clearing was temple of some sort, and he could see the 3 girls entering. Oh, they are so getting a spanking! Padme growled as she thumbed the safety off and the assault rifle cycled to active. Ready! HK said, and Obi-Wan would bet his lightsaber that the droid, if it had emotions, would be giddy with joy. Obi-Wan spared it a glance and saw the assault rifle primed and ready. Before he could say anything, one of the bull rankers roared as it spotted them and began lumbering across the space between them and the temple. Others took up its roar, and soon a stampede was heading for him. Using a curse he heard Naruto use numerous times, he had to admit it sounded appropriate. Fuck me! Chapter 43. Landing Pad Kamino. Revan watched as Yoda had the clones loaded. Right thing you did, the aged master said as he looked at her. I let Fett and his clone leave. It doesn't feel right, Revan said. Yoda made a sound as he too watched the clones. Any word on Naruto? Revan asked. Blocked your bond is? Yoda asked, his face becoming thoughtful. He's alive, I know that much, Revan said, not happy. What of Obi-Wan, the senator, and the children? Kagan asked. Well hidden they are. Wherever Revan sent them, safe they are, I assume, Yoda said, looking at the Solarian Jedi whose gaze was unfocused as she tried once more to connect with her husband. Len. I'm telling Mom! Obi-Wan looked at Kushin and Namikaze with wide eyes. What? The Jedi Knight asked, looking at the youngest of the Namikaze children with a hint of betrayal. Behind him Padme was scolding Anko and Haku while HK was busy destroying the rancor remains. Thankfully the herd scattered after several of the more aggressive ones went down. Obi-Wan picked Kushina up and looked her eye to eye. You can tell your mother, little one, as long as you tell her how the 3 of you left the ship and wandered into the middle of a herd of rancor. I'm sure she will overlook my few curse words. Kushina pouted as she knew the bearded Jedi was right. Crossing her arms, she gave him a look that she learned from her father. That look won't work, little one. Now I need to get the 3 of you back to the ship before the herd comes back and HK gets his fond wish of eliminating them all and letting the maggots sort them out. Nighttime came and Obi-Wan was leaning back resting while watching the fire. The sounds of the jungle had calmed down, and the sound of the waves lapping the shore made it feel like a paradise. Hearing footsteps in the sand, he didn't turn as he sensed Padme, and he felt her hand before she climbed over the log and sank down to sit next to him. Finally asleep? He asked. That or they're really good at faking it, Padme said. HK is standing guard with orders to stun them. Obi-Wan saw the smile and knew she was joking on the last part. Well, we can truthfully say it's never dull around those 3. And he saw her smile at that. They are a handful. It makes me wonder what Master Revan and Naruto were like as children, the former queen said. From what Naruto's told me, he was a lot more wild and pulled pranks on his whole village. And those 3 are terrors to the temple. I pity the master, Padme said. Thank you? She looked at him with a questioning look. Naruto's convinced that I'll take the twins, but Revan has hinted that I will only get one. I'll find out which is right, Obi-Wan said softly. Truthfully, I hope that I get one, as the twins have run me ragged for years already. As my Padawans, they might just be the end of me. They watched the fire, snuggled together, words not needed as they just enjoyed each other's company. Later that night. Daddy! Kushina's scream had Obi-Wan rushing into the cabin with his ignited lightsaber in hand. Anko and Haku were sitting up as their sister broke into hysterical sobs and her whole body shivering. HK had powered up all systems and was scanning for danger to slay. Padme slipped past Obi-Wan and the assassin droid, pulling Kushina into a hug as the young girl continued to sob. Obi-Wan deactivated his weapon and looked at the twins. What happened? Anko looked as upset as her younger sister. It was Haku who managed to answer. Daddy's in trouble. We saw him in an arena fighting monsters and wing bug people. He was shot in the back when we all woke up. I think Kushina's terror pulled us all out of the vision. Obi-Wan looked at Padme. I'll call the temple. Padme held the young girl, who continued sobbing and was shaking, her words repeated over and over. Not Daddy! Padme looked as Anko and Haku shared a look. What? If you two have an idea, share it. Even if the temple knows, they won't get to him in time, Haku said. However, we could, but... Here Anko paused. But what? Padme demanded. Here Anko got a look that Padme had seen on the girl's mother when she was deadly serious. Master Kenobi won't approve. Padme raised a brow. What are you suggesting? Haku and Anko shared a look. You might not like it, Haku finally said. Padme could feel Kushina's sobs slow. She had grown fond of Naruto, and if there was anything she could do to help someone who was a friend, she'd do it. Whatever it is, do it, she said in the tone she had used when she had been Queen of Naboo. The twins exchanged looks. Kushina, you know what to do, Anko said, and she rushed down the hall. Padme watched as Haku headed towards the aft. Kushina was pulling out of her arms when Padme grabbed her. Where are you going? To get the ship started, Kushina said, wiping tears from her face with the sleeve of her nightshirt. And the others? Padme had a feeling when she heard Obi-Wan's yell of surprise. Anko went to lock up Master Kenobi. Haku went to secure everything for takeoff. Padme followed the young girl, and they passed the communications room where Anko was leaning against the door, the controls sparking with the kunai sticking out of it. Kushina entered the cockpit and pointed at several switches out of her reach. Padme flicked them on and watched as the youngest of her friend's children was activating controls. Would you inform HK that he's going to have to secure himself, please? Padme wondered why she had no problems taking orders but shrugged it off and went to do as asked. In less than 2 minutes the Gamma Raisingan lifted off from the Rakatan world of Len. After clearing orbit the ship leapt into lightspeed. Geonosis. I spy with my little eye something that. Will you shut up? Naruto smirked at Anakin. Just passing the time. Pass it in silence then, Anakin growled. Nope. We could talk, Naruto offered. And what would we have to talk about? The chip on your shoulder perhaps, or the Hutt sail barge that's taken up space in your ass. Anakin glared. I'd rather kiss a Wookiee. Naruto smirked. That can be arranged. They like me on Ka. Naruto stopped talking as the cell door opened as several Genosians along with battle droids entered the cell. Finally an armored figure entered with hands resting on pistols. Ah, Jango. Was wondering what rock you'd crawl out from. The helmet head stared at him. Namikaze, came the growled voice. Your wife sends her regards. Naruto stared at him. If you harmed her in any way I will kill you, Fett. Anakin and Naruto were dragged out of the cell with the Genosians using pikes to shove them along. Fett fell into step with Naruto. She's fine. We talked and she let me go. Naruto remained quiet as he was pushed down the corridor and into an arena that was filling up with Genosians. There were posts in the center and Naruto knew he wasn't going to like this. As he was chained to the one in the middle, his arms over his head, he scanned the arena and spotted a familiar silver and blue dome of R2-D2. He shook his head and the astromech droid pulled back into the shadows. He was glad the little droid had survived the destruction of the starfighter. You know, when my day started with the Chancellor asking me to come and negotiate with the Separatists, this wasn't even on my mind, Anakin said as he too was strung up, cutting into Naruto's thoughts. Well, at least you're not alone, Naruto said. Come on, there's got to be a way out of this, the blonde thought. In his mind he was going through several strategies, most of them worked, but Anakin wouldn't survive and that he couldn't allow as he did owe the younger man. Looks like we're not alone, Anakin said, drawing Naruto's attention to the doors opening again. His eyes found the face of his friend. Obi-Wan? What the hell are you doing here? Obi-Wan Kenobi staggered as the battle droid gave him a shove. Oh, you know, came to rescue you. And how is that working out for you? Anakin snarked. Everything's going to plan. I have them right where they want me, Obi-Wan said as he had his arms secured over his head. Your plan needs work then, Anakin said with a flat tone. Tell me that you left my girls and the senator safe, Naruto said. Of course I did, Obi-Wan said. But you know how well they listen. Naruto growled as the Geonosians began blaring horns and he spotted Count Dooku, a pair of Nemoidians and the silver armor of Jango Fett. It was then that the gates opened and he saw tonight's entertainment being let into the arena. Oh, look, they sprung for the zoo package, how nice. A giant bug, a pissed-off cat and a horned beast, and you think this is nice? Anakin said in disbelief as the creatures were herded towards them. It's better than a firing squad, Naruto said, turning back towards the obviously hungry creatures. Anakin meanwhile was freaking out. He glanced up at Count Dooku who was smiling and he turned to say something only to find Naruto climbing up the post. A little help here. Obi-Wan shrugged as he dodged the claw swipe from the giant bug. The cat was trying to leap up the pole to get to Naruto who kicked it in the face. Keep your shirt on, the whisker-marked blonde called down as he worked on picking the locks that kept him chained. He kicked the cat again as it leapt at him. No, bad kitty! Stay down! He rapped the chain double, and as the cat creature leapt, Naruto jumped and the Genosian crowd went wild. Chapter 44. Geonosis Arena. Naruto managed to get chain into the Nexu or the lion-like monster's mouth like a bit, and he pulled, flipping it over and away. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan's avoiding the Acclay's deadly strikes ended up with the creature slicing the chain with its blade-like claw. Anakin managed to avoid the charging bull-like reek. The 100 Genosians went from cheering to booing. The guards who had herded the monsters towards their targets rushed back out to corral them and tried to use them to execute the 3 prisoners. Any time, Naruto! Obi-Wan calls and rolls under the Acclay as it lunged at him, its blade-like claw getting stuck in the pole. Neither Ninja Jedi or Jedi noticed as Anakin leapt up, avoiding the reek a second time, and wrapped his chain around its horn, allowing it to break the chain with its power. He then swung it into the beast's mouth, and used it like reins to control his new mount. Obi-Wan managed to get one of the pikes from the guards and used it to fight the Acclay. Naruto played a deadly game of dodge with the Nexu. The leaping lion-like monster was quick, but Naruto, who had survived several wars, was quicker. He was ready to drop when the Nexu made another leap and found it pointless as Anakin rode the reek into a charge, its horn tearing into the Nexu. You okay, Namikaze? Yeah. And thanks, the whisker-marked blonde said. They turned to see the Nexus up despite its wound to find it fighting the Acclay, which had gotten excited at the smell of blood. Anakin hopped off of the reek, which lumbered away. Well, that was fun, Obi-Wan said as he joined the pair. In the balcony he saw Dooku talking with the Nemoidians, and he finally recognized Newt Gunray and growled. Looks like Padme's fan club has finally peeked out from under its rock. Obi-Wan looked and narrowed his eyes. Tell me, Anakin, I thought the Chancellor had dealt with Gunray after his failed invasion. How is he still free? Anakin shook his head. The Supreme Chancellor pushed for strict punishment, but the courts allowed Gunray and the Trade Federation off lightly. The Chancellor is pushing for reforms of the courts and legal systems. Obi-Wan shook his head as Dooku stepped forward, his voice amplified around the arena. Master Namikaze, Master Kenobi, and young Skywalker, you 3 have shown great strength that should be honored and recorded in the Great Library at the Jedi Temple. Below, the 3 snorted. Is this guy in love with his own voice? Anakin asked. Dooku, even as a Jedi, prattled on while he was at the temple, Naruto said. The fact he pissed Revheim off to the point where he was suspended from one of the weather vanes when he tried to tell her that it was unseemly for a Jedi Master of her stature to play with the children. Obi-Wan nodded. I think Kagan laughed himself hoarse. Dooku's speech kept going and was cut off when a green lightsaber activated just under his chin. Kagan Jin looked at his former master, shaking his head. You've fallen far, my old master. Have you forgotten all you used to preach about? Dooku looked at his former apprentice. There is a darkness you are unaware of, my old student. The steps I take are for the betterment of all, not just a few in the Senate that wish to rule. Kagan shook his head. You are wrong. Inciting war is not for the betterment of anyone. Dooku gave him a look. Then you, like the council, are blind. Before Kagan can say anything, Jango Fett takes a shot at the Jedi Master, who deflects the shots and back flips out of the balcony and into the arena below. What were you waiting for? Dooku snapped. A better shot, Jango said in a flat voice before donning his helmet. Yells went up around the arena as Genosians took to the air. The cause of this was simple, as nearly 20 Jedi shrugged off their hooded cloaks and activated their lightsabers. Kagan sliced off the chains and Naruto grinned as 2 lightsabers appeared in his hands with a small puff of smoke. How'd you do that? And why didn't you do it sooner? Anakin demanded. Trade secret. Naruto smiled as the Trade Federation's battle droids marched into the arena. Obi-Wan activated his own blue-bladed lightsaber and grinned at Kagan. What took you so long, Master? Oh, you know, my former apprentice had to stop off and collect some things. Kagan looked at Naruto. And your wife is not happy with you. Naruto flinched. I figured that when I closed the bond. I didn't want her worrying. The 2 Jedi shook their heads while Anakin looked at them. Are you insane? Yes, came 3 answers. Naruto, care to start us off? Kagan asked as the battle droids approached. The blonde grinned and leapt into the air, his leap carrying him into the middle of the battle droids. Stupid droids say what? He said. What? One battle droid inquired, and its answer was getting decapitated. Naruto began moving, dodging, twisting and slashing, the whole time droids fell under his twin silver-bladed lightsabers. The battle erupted as the Jedi in the stands engaged Genosian warriors and battle droids. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon fought together, their time apart having no effect on their unity. Anakin retrieved a blaster rifle and used the pillar as a shield, his eyes searching out and finding Naruto as the blonde tore through the battle droids. Up in the balcony, Count Dooku was ordering the leaders of the Separatists to retreat. He looked at Fett. "Take care of this," he hissed as he watched the battle. And while the gathered Jedi were good, they were being overwhelmed in sheer numbers as even more battle droids marched into the arena. Dooku wanted to laugh. For every 10 battle droids, destroyer droids and Geonosian warrior that fell, they took a Jedi down. Dooku scowled seeing Namikaze fighting. He had hoped the blonde would have fallen, but none of the gathered warriors could match him. In the arena, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were fighting back to back. "Someone's got to shut down these droids," the younger man said, deflecting blaster fire. "It's being seen too," Qui-Gon answered. And to prove that there was a beeping, and for a moment the battle droids shut down, going limp. The gathered Jedi cheered, but it was short-lived as the droids seemed to come to life again. "It seems that they are independent of the control ship in orbit," Qui-Gon said. "What do you mean?" Obi-Wan asked. "Master Revan led a fighter attack. When the battle droid shut down, I thought that had done it." Obi-Wan wondered what this meant. But as the battle picked up, the Jedi were using the pillars and the remains of a chariot as cover when Dooku signaled for the attack to stop. "Master Jin, I give you this opportunity to surrender. There is no shame in being defeated by a greater opponent." "We will not surrender to you, my former master. As for greater opponent, you merely have a numbers advantage," Qui-Gon said, using the time to use the Force to bolster his tired body. Dooku laughed. "I have missed your bravado, Qui-Gon. We both know there is no way for you and those standing with you to survive." "I notice you're way up there, Dooku," Naruto cut in. "But that's your style. You talk the talk, but when it comes time to put up or shut up, you're far from the center." "I wasn't talking to you, Namikaze. What Revan sees in a backwater barbarian like you only the Force knows." Naruto grinned. "Still smarting over the beating she gave you when you tried your little power play to take the children. It must tick you off that not only is she a Jedi Master, but a mother to 3 very Force-strong children." Dooku sneered. "At least you will die soon, and then I will take your children and teach them properly." Here several of the surviving Jedi along with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon laughed. "You inhaled some bad death sticks or spice lately?" Naruto said after chuckling. "Because that was a very stupid statement." Before Dooku could say something, an explosion rocked the arena and everyone looked up to see several gunships appear. Naruto smiled seeing Master Yoda as the ships descended and heard the aged master giving orders to white-armored troops. Numerous troops leapt from the gunships, their blasters firing before their feet even touched the ground, taking out numerous battle droids. "Come! Come! Hurry!" Yoda ordered the Jedi. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan and Anakin boarded one ship while Naruto joined Yoda. "You picked up an army?" the blonde asked, blocking several blaster shots. "Revan did," Yoda said as the ship lifted off. "Where is she?" "I didn't want to reopen the bond if she's in the middle of battle," Naruto said. "Leading the starfighters she is. Save your children and Senator Amidala are," Yoda said. Naruto was quiet as he spotted the droid controlled ships. Well, that explains why the droids seemed unstoppable in the arena. He spotted one of the gunships take out a control ship, and realized it was the ship with Obi-Wan and the others. "To the forward command post, take us," Yoda ordered the pilot. He turned to look at Naruto. "Needed your skills are. Lead the clones you must." Naruto didn't say anything, but his desire to see his wife and children made him anxious to see them. Space. The droid fighters were being cut to ribbons as the Jedi-led clone starfighters were decimating them. Revan aboard the Millennium Falcon looked at the clone that was acting as her co-pilot. There were several more on board in the turrets along with young Boba Fett, who let out a shout of joy as he blew another vulture droid apart. "General," one of the clones said from the communications chair. "Report," she ordered. "Master Yoda's forces have rescued General Namikaze and the others. They've taken command of the ground forces," the Canderous clone said. "Tell them the ships in orbit already are either destroyed or making their escape. And find out if they need any air support." "Roger that," the clone said. Revan piloted the freighter, the clone ships, as her wingmen made sure that whatever the Falcon's gun turrets missed they picked up. Naruto, you better survive this. She thought. Geonosis. "With me you must come," Yoda said as he broke out of his trance. "Aid we must give. To who? If you haven't noticed, the whole area is a war zone," Naruto said. For the past half hour he'd been in the thick of the fighting, watching as clones and battle droids died by the hundreds. "To Obi-Wan, and your children go we must. Grave danger I sense, Yoda said. I thought you said they were safe. Safe they were, Yoda said after ordering a ship brought for them. Danger they are now in. Decision to aid Obi-Wan they made. Followed after Dooku they did, Yoda said as they boarded a gunship. Your ship survived, it did not. Naruto growled as the gunship lifted off, leaving Master Windu and others to see to the battle. Earlier, Padme and the children lifted the ship off as soon as Obi-Wan had leapt from the boarding ramp. Padme took the pilot seat and allowed Haku to be her co-pilot while Anko and Kushina were powering up the weapons and defense systems. They'll be fine, Padme said. Obi-Wan and your father have had many adventures over the years. Haku looked at the older woman. But none of us have ever had a vision like this before. Kushina came up and was adjusting the communications, picking up chatter. Mommy, Kushina said as they heard Revan's voice ordering the clone starfighters into attack formation. It seems like the Jedi have arrived, Padme said. Anko hurried in and sat at the weapons console. A few control pushes and the screen lit up. That's a lot of droids, Anko said, losing count of how many red dots filled the screen, many of them grouped together making even bigger dots. A report came in that Master Yoda's group rescued the survivors and were now joining the ground battle. See, they're okay, Padme said, releasing her breath. But the battle is far from done, Haku said. They heard the chatter from the battle as clones were sending reports to the forward command post. One report caught their attention. Master Kagan and Obi-Wan are chasing Count Dooku and the bounty hunter, Kushina said as she tried to clear up the communications chatter. Haku checked the tactical. We can help. No, we can't. Your mother would kill me if I took you girls into battle, Padme argued. You can tell her we ganged up on you and locked you in the refresher, Anko said. Besides, Daddy gave the oil gamma a few mods. Padme looked into the eyes and her resistance crumbled. Plotting intercept course. Strap in, she ordered. 3 cheers filled the air. Deflector shields to maximum, Anko reported. Auto turret 1 and 2 activated. Missile tubes 1, 2 and 3 armed and ready. Haku from her seat gave her own report. Engines are at 100%. Maneuvering thrusters are under your command. Padme shook her head. You girls sound way too professional doing this. That's 'cause Mommy and Daddy have been teaching us to fly, Kushina chimed in. Padme was quiet as she flew. There they are, Anko yelled. Ahead of them 4 vulture droids were attacking the gunship that was following 2 swoop bikes over the rocky terrain. Anko, target those fighters, Padme ordered. The Gamma Raisin Gan chewed up the distance, its speed greater than the droids and gunship. Firing, Anko announced, and the topside turrets spat blue bolts of energy, and one of the droid ships erupted in a ball of flame. Nice shot, Kushina said. Hang on, Padme yelled as 2 of the fighters peeled off and circled around. Anko, use the second turret to target those fig-hers. Gotcha, Auntie, Anko cheered, and Padme wondered where the girls got that title for her from. Haku, fortify the rear deflectors, Padme ordered even as the first volley of laser fire struck the rear of the craft. Kushina gave her report. Rear deflector down to 85%. Padme cursed as she tried to put the Gamma into defensive maneuvers. Revan's going to kill me, the former queen of Naboo thought as more laser fire struck the craft, and the narrow valley they had entered prevented any big maneuvers. Shields are down to 50%, Kushina reported. Any time, Anko, Haku said. They're too nimble for the targeting computer to keep up with, Anko hissed. Another blast shook the ship. Kushina reported that the rear shields were down to 10% even as another blast rocked the ship. The rear deflector is gone. Another hit, and Anko said a word that Padme knew wasn't good. Targeting computer just went offline. Padme saw the gunship ahead drop off 3 people and start to pull away before being shot apart by the vulture droids. Girls, we're going to have to abandon ship, Padme said even as the rear armor gave way. We're going down, Haku yelled out, and Padme fought the controls to keep them in the air. Several more blasts, and the rear of the Gamma Raisin Gan exploded. Hangar. Dooku took a deep breath as he saw his ship and his droid pilot were ready. A sensation in the Force warned him, even as a blaster bolt whizzed past his head. Ah, Jango, I knew you couldn't be trusted, he said, turning around, his lightsaber in hand, and blocked several more shots. What can I say, Tyrannus? Revan made me a better offer. Jango's voice came out of his helmet. Yes, Revan, the whore that she is. Tell me, bounty hunter, did she promise to lay with you and have your spawn? Fett said nothing but pulled out his second pistol and snapped off a series of rapid shots that backed Dooku away from his ship. You will not disrespect the Revan, Jango growled. I have done some things in my life that have stained the honor of myself and my people. I see now that it was wrong to trust you. Dooku sneered as he blocked all of the shots and with a simple wave of his hand sent Jango slamming into a wall. He stopped seeing Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon and Skywalker enter the hangar. It's over, Dooku, surrender. Skywalker called out. Give up now and the Chancellor will show mercy. Mercy? Dooku spat. I think not. It's not too late. Qui-Gon tried to reach the man he once respected. Anakin stepped forward and to the shock of everyone pulled out a lightsaber. You're going down. And he attacked before anyone could say anything more. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were forced to activate their own and moved in to defend Anakin as Dooku was showing the younger man what fighting with a lightsaber was like. While it was 3-on-1, it was the two Jedi on defense and Dooku laughing as he felt the anger rolling off of Skywalker. Behind them Jango groaned as he struggled to rise. The slamming into the wall had knocked the breath from him, and with his armor dented he was finding it hard to breathe and focus on the battle ragging before him. Chapter 45. Naruto jumped from the gunship before it touched down and rushed towards the crashed ship, his limbs enhanced with chakra and the Force. Behind him he heard Master Yoda and the clone troopers touch the ground and follow him. He didn't slow as he formed a Rasengan in his hand and shoved it into the side of the ship, twisting and ripping the hull, creating a new door, which he passed through. Anko! Kushina! Haku! He called out. He heard coughing and made his way to the small bridge. He held his breath as he entered the smoke-filled corridor, and created a gust of wind using his chakra to clear the air. He found his children still strapped into their crash harnesses and Padme unconscious in the pilot's seat. He didn't waste time as he created 3 shadow clones and set them to work cutting the harnesses and hauling the children out of there. He checked on Padme and found that she'd struck her head and using a kunai cut the harness off and making sure she had no threatening injuries picked her up and carried her out of the remains of the ship. He found Yoda checking over the children when he put Padme down. Children all right, unconscious only, the Jedi Master said. You and you. Naruto pointed to the clone troopers. Stay here and protect them with my shadow clones. Going somewhere are you? Yoda asked. Naruto pointed up. Ben's up there and as much as I want to stay with my kids, my friend needs me. Yoda nodded. Remain with the children and the senator I will. Naruto nodded and to the shock of the clone troopers he proceeded to run up the rock face. How is he doing that? One of the troopers asked. Some Jedi trick? A second said. Yoda laughed as he tended to Padme's head wound. Naruto's shadow clones went to the Gamma to see what they could salvage. One was on fire duty and created a water dragon to douse the flames. Hangar. Anakin, retreat! Qui-Gon demanded as he blocked Dooku's attack. Skywalker was like a wild animal, swinging his lightsaber to which Dooku blocked and sent the young man flying backwards with a force push. Dooku then dueled with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. His saber flashed around easily blocking the blue and green lightsabers. You and young Kenobi are a very formidable team. Join me, Qui-Gon. With you by my side we can bring peace to the galaxy and unveil the lies that keep the good and honest people under the heel of those in power. Qui-Gon's green-bladed lightsaber locked with Dooku's and the former master and student's eyes met over their blades. You are a fool. You are starting a war that no one will win. Dooku sneered and used the Force to push Qui-Gon back several feet, but Obi-Wan was there and he attacked. Dooku chuckled. Good. Good. Feel the anger, young Kenobi. Give in to your hate. Obi-Wan shook his head. You're wrong. It's not hate, it's determination. I don't hate you, Dooku, I pity you. Their lightsabers slammed together and Dooku scowled. He managed to block Kenobi's attempt with the Force push, and he sneered as with a twist he managed to score a deep hit on the young man's thigh and then with a Force push sent him into Qui-Gon, and both of them slammed into Jango who had been trying to get an angle on him and shoot him. You're all fools. The Order is blind and the Republic is dying from the inside. My aiding the Separatists is what will preserve those that see the Republic for the corruption and decadence that it is. Liar! Anakin was there and attacking. His lightsaber attack savage and wild managed to drive Dooku back. One of Anakin's wild swings hit a power cable that had the hangar lights go out and come back with emergency lighting. Dooku felt it was time to go and after a move that knocked the lightsaber out of the younger man's hand, Dooku feeling vindictive twisted his grip a bit and sliced off Skywalker's arm off at mid-forearm. Anakin howled in pain and dropped to his knees clutching his severed limb. You should have listened to the Jedi boy. You do not understand the power of the dark side. Dooku was going to decapitate the wounded young man when he was sent flying backwards. his eyes seeing Naruto standing there with a glowing blue orb in his hand. Kagan, take care of them, Naruto said as his own lightsaber appeared in his hand, and another appeared in his other hand with a puff of smoke. It's time for the Count and I to have a chat, Naruto said, striding forward, his eyes on Dooku, who struggled to his feet, one hand still on the grip of his lightsaber, while his other hand clutching his chest. Ah, Namikaze, Dooku said as he approached. Still alive, what a pity. Naruto gave him a flat look. Better than you have tried and they're all dead. Give in to your hate, that's what you'll need to do to defeat me. Dooku tried, his words laced with the Force. Naruto laughed. I'm not weak-willed, and I don't need hate to beat you, Count. My wife already whipped your ass, but then they say the first to go in senior citizens is memory. From behind him Naruto heard Qui-Gon's. That wasn't nice. Revan was a Sith Lord long before you were born, boy. She'll be one again, Dooku said. Boy. Really? I'm older than you, Dooku. And Revan was a Sith Lord, granted. But she redeemed herself long before your father, and nothing you say will change that she is better than you. My youngest Kushina is stronger than you, and she's not even a Padawan yet. Yes, the potential is there. I will have to thank you for the 3 apprentices you're giving me. Naruto's eyes hardened. You will never turn my children, Dooku. I'll destroy you if you get close enough to try. And that will be a mercy to what Revan will do to you should you try and turn our children. I think they might find enough DNA to identify your remains. You're not that good, Namikaze. You might have fooled others, but you're no Jedi. Dooku spat at him. And Revan is a shadow of what she was. She's grown weak. Naruto smirked. That's where you're wrong. For the past decade I've learned how to harness the Force thanks to Master Yoda. As much as I'll get teased for it later, I am a Jedi Knight, Naruto said. I am also a ninja. Former Hokage of Konoha, the village hidden in the leaf. Husband to a beautiful woman, father to 3 wonderful children. I am neither light or dark, like my wife I am gray. And your planned insurrection ends here and now. The flashing of lightsabers could be seen by the others in the dim lighting. 4 sets of eyes watched as Dooku's lightsaber barely managed to deflect Naruto's silver and orange blades that were in constant motion. All 4 wondered if Naruto could do it. Time was going to find the answer. Skies over Geonosis. Revan piloted the Millennium Falcon over the battlefield. From her height, she could only make out the crisscrossing of red and blue laser fire. General, forward command thanks you for the air support. The last of the control ships have retreated to space and made the jump to light speed, the clone at communications reported. Signal the rest of the fighters to make strafing runs where they can. She checked a special sensor to her left. And report to forward command I'm heading for the last reported location of the Gamma Rasengan. Revan wondered what happened as the ship's beacon had been activated, meaning it had crashed. You kids better be safe, she thought as the Falcon chewed up the distance. She saw the vulture droids before one of the clones reported it. Take those damn things out, now! The last was a growl and the turrets spat their deadly charge and the last vulture droids exploded. We're going in, she said to the co-pilot, and the Falcon lowered to the ground, its landing struts touched down, and Revan was out of her seat and making her way, using the Force to lower the boarding ramp. Her strides powered by the Force had her at the wreckage of her husband's ship, her Force senses telling her there was no one alive in the wreck. Cammy, no, she said. Gamma Rasengan wreckage. Master Yoda had moved the children and the senator further away from the wreck while the clone troopers and Naruto's shadow clones were trying to hold off the vulture droids which were making strafing runs. Already their gunship was destroyed. The shadow clones were the first to go in puffs of smoke. The clone troopers took up positions and tried to shoot the flying droid fighters, but their shields were too strong. One run took out 2 clones, blowing up their rocky perch. The last clone trooper under Yoda's command retreated to the overhang that was shielding the Jedi Master and his charges, the smoke from the wreck shielding them as well. General, I'm sorry, the clone trooper said. Your fault is not. The aged Master was using the Force to shield them and didn't notice the destruction of the vulture droids. What caught his attention in his trance was the wail of pain and despair. The second thing was the shout of a young voice. MOM. Yoda opened his eyes to see Haku sitting up, and he felt her reach out with the Force. He looked to see the smoke vanish and Revan leap over the wreckage of the ship and run towards them. Haku broke cover and raced to her mother, and was swept up in a bone-crushing hug. The clones with Revan came around the far side of the wreckage scanning for danger, and seeing their brother who lowered his rifle at seeing them. Haku dragged Revan towards the shelter. Revan scanned her daughters with the Force now that Yoda wasn't shielding them and released a sigh of relief. She focused her chakra and ran a green glowing hand over each of her daughters and finally Padme. When she was done, she looked at the Jedi Master before her. Thank you for looking after them. Yoda shrugged. Concerned we should be. Dooku, your husband, has gone to fight. She scowled, then looked at the clone troopers. Take my children and the senator to the Falcon. Before stepping out and looking up the cliff. What about you, General? One of the troopers asked. I'm going to retrieve my husband. Haku put a hand on her leg, drawing her attention. Mom, what about HK? He's still in the wreck. Revan thought about her droid. After I get your father, dearest. HK's a tough old droid. A crash will just irritate him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's digging himself out and getting ready to cause chaos and mayhem in retribution. I thought I was chaos and Anko was mayhem? Haku said with her father's grin. Revan chuckled and ruffled her daughter's hair. Oh, you are dear one. My 3 little hellions. Now go with the troopers and stay on the Falcon. We'll talk about you kidnapping the Senator and Obi-Wan to come to a war zone later. How do you know we kidnapped them? Haku asked as the clone picked up her sisters. Revan gave her a look. Because Obi-Wan is too responsible to bring you 3 and Padme into danger. And the 3 of you probably bullied poor Padme once you had Obi-Wan out of the way. She finished poking her daughter on the forehead. Now go be safe while I go and do some thrilling heroics that will impress your father. Haku scrunched up her nose and watched as her mother grabbed Master Yoda and after flipping him onto her back rushed up the cliff face using chakra. How is she doing that? One of the clones asked. She's a Jedi, another answered. She's my mother, Haku said with pride as she watched her mother and her new Jedi Master backpack vanish over an overhang and then turned to follow the clones to the safety of the Falcon. Hangar. Naruto's pace was constant, and Dooku was finding it hard to breath. He couldn't believe the pace the blonde was setting. He needed to create some space, and reaching into his tunic he hit the emergency call button. What trickery is this? Dooku demanded. Master Took and the others are right about you. Naruto backed off and shook his head. They aren't even in the right galaxy. You see, Dooku, I heard you trying to pull this shit when you were a Jedi. Naruto said and easily blocked the fallen Jedi's attack, and with a flurry backed him up away from the ship. You spew honeyed words and empty promises. Oh, you might mix in a hint of truth, when it sweets you, but let's face it, Dooku, you were shit as a Jedi and you're barely rating anything as a lackey. Count Dooku felt a surge of energy fill him as anger burned deeply. His attack came on fast and Naruto managed to block the attacks, but he noticed the Count seemed to have gotten a second wind. Dooku's attack continued and he lashed out with force lightning. Naruto blocked it with one of his sabers, but he felt the shock run down into his arm. Obi-Wan pulled out a back-to-patch and applied it to his injured thigh. He had been confused when Revan and Naruto had presented him a pouch and told him that he would need the items inside. Kagan groaned. I'm getting too old to be thrown around like that. Obi-Wan pulled out an injector, checked it, and jabbed it into his former master's shoulder. Oh. What in blazes? Obi-Wan smiled. It's an adrenal stim. He jabbed another into his master. That's something Naruto called an energy booster. Django was watching the fight. He had to remove his chest plate as it was dented and making breathing difficult. He figured he had a cracked rib. It was then he spotted a figure appear at the back of the hangar, but due to the darkness he couldn't make more than a shape out. Namikaze! Behind you! He yelled and Naruto avoided the laser blast to the back as he spun away, putting the ship between him and the new entrant. Dooku used the time to gather himself. He looked, sensing a very familiar presence. Ah, Master Yoda, and Revan. Dooku sneered her name. Naruto spared a glance and saw his wife lower the aged master to his feet before she moved to the side, not taking her eyes off of Dooku. Geonosis, Gamma Rasengan wreckage. The sound of twisting metal filled the air. Sadly, it went unheard by those in the Falcon. In the depths, a pair of red eyes flashed, and the sound of more twisted metal was heard. Soon a figure crawled out of the ship and -47 Hong Kong dollars stepped onto the surface of the planet. He allowed his sensors to reboot. Statement: It seems like the young mistresses have ruined the master's ship. Shocking statement. I am not going to be blamed for this one. He took 3 steps when out of the smoke a blue ion blast slammed into him, and he was forcibly shut down as his systems were still offline from the crash. He hadn't known he wasn't alone and most of defensive programs had yet to reboot. A figure stepped out of the smoke wearing a wide-brimmed hat. The face was in shadow, but 2 blood-red eyes gleamed with malice. Quick, grab the droid. The figure ordered, and 2 short creatures with pig-like snouts and white stringy hair went to work. The figure pressed a button on a forearm gauntlet before turning and vanishing back into the smoke. Hangar. Dooku's wrist gauntlet chirped. He smiled as relief flooded him, for he knew he didn't have it in him to face Revan or Yoda separately, much less at the same time with the energy he'd used. I think it's time to go. As soon as he finished speaking, several grenades were lobbed over the ship and they hit the ground. They exploded, revealing they were flash grenades as well as sonic and smoke. When the light cleared and the gathered heroes could see, Dooku was already up the ramp and his ship was moving for launch. Naruto spotted who his accomplice was and growled. "Sing!" Boo sees him and gives him a little waves of her fingers before the ship shoots out of the hangar. Revan activates her comlink. "Trooper, bring the Falcon up. Prepare the medbay for wounded. Also contact the fleet and see if they can catch that ship that just left here." She turned back to Naruto and smiled. "Hello dear, you don't let me know you're in danger." Naruto's lightsabers vanished, and he raised his hands, backing up. "Now Rev-chan, you know I only closed the bond so you could focus on what you were doing." He tried. "Our daughters kidnapped the senator, and your best friend wrecked your ship and had the gall to act innocent. Why is it when they cause chaos or mayhem they're my children?" the blonde asked. "My children are perfect angels." Before they could continue, there was the clearing of a throat. "Discuss later who children take after. Wounded to be taken care of we must," Yoda mock scolded. The Namikaze moved to aid their friends as well as Skywalker and Fett when Naruto looked at his wife. "Where did you leave our darling children?" "With the clone troopers at the Falcon. Haku was the only one awake and will need to salvage HK from your ship's wreckage." Naruto shook his head as he supported Obi-Wan. "So Ben, got your ass kicked again. You know, you really should look into taking a refresher course or something in lightsaber dueling." Obi-Wan gritted his teeth as his thigh ached in pain. "Oh, shut up." Revan pulled Fett to his feet and looked over at the pair. "Maybe we should have Padme kiss it better," she teased. Jango took a shallow breath. "And what do I get, Revan?" She gave him a look. "I don't hit your ribs and you spend a couple of hours in a bacta-tank, then you and Boba take the offer I gave you." "And what is my wife offering a scruffy Mandalorian?" Naruto asked. Jango sneered and was stopped from making a smart-ass remark when Revan elbowed him in his injured ribs. "I offered him a chance to raise his son properly and a secure job," Revan said as clone troopers rushed in and followed Kagan as he supported Anakin, who seemed to have fallen into shock. More talks were stopped as the three Namikaze children were followed by a shaken Padme. The children went to their parents and Padme replaced Naruto supporting Obi-Wan. Naruto put an arm around Revan after the clone troopers took Jango, and their children surrounded them, talking rapidly all at once about their adventure. "You won't ruin my family, Dooku," he thought, looking around. One of the clones was listening on a radio next to Yoda. "General, the resistance has ended. All battle droids are deactivated. What are your orders?" The aged Jedi Master sighs. "Coruscant, hidden location." Dooku leaves his ship, not looking at the bounty hunter or his droid pilot. He strides across the hidden hangar to a black cloaked figure hidden in shadow. "Welcome home, Lord Tyrannus." The figure's raspy voice washes over the dark Jedi and makes him shudder. "You have done well." Dooku bowed his head. "The Force is with us, my master. I bring good news. The war has begun." Dooku hesitates. "Lord Sidious, the Namikaze." Sidious chuckles. "Everything is going as planned. The children of Revan will eventually come to the dark side." Coruscant, Jedi Temple, Council Chamber. Mace Windu, Kagan Jinn and Master Yoda sat discussing the recent battle. "And where is young Kenobi?" Mace asked the two other masters. "Obi-Wan along with the Namikaze are escorting the senator home to Naboo," Kagan said. "And if I am right, my former Padawan is likely getting married if the looks between him and the senator were anything to go by," Kagan said with a chuckle. "And we're to allow this?" Mace asked. "Isn't it against the code?" "Change things must," Yoda said. "Revan has spoken that life is about changes. Stagnate and die those that do not." Mace seemed disturbed. He tolerated Revan and Naruto as they were from different time and different worlds. But the changes they brought made the master nervous. "I'll need to mediate on that," he muttered to himself. They looked out one of the windows as the sun set on the horizon. "I must admit, without those clones victory wouldn't have been ours," Kagan said. "Victory?" Yoda said, looking at him from his hover pad. "Victory, you say?" He looked around the chamber, and his message was clear as several of the masters were wounded during the battle and were receiving medical attention. "Not victory, defeat it was, begun this Clone Wars has," Yoda intoned, and the ominous feeling filled the three masters. Naboo, Lake Retreat. Naruto held Revan as they watched Obi-Wan and Padme standing before a holy man. The three Namikaze children were standing quietly and smiling as the pair exchanged vows. As the couple kissed and the three girls swarmed them cheering, Naruto spoke to his wife quietly. "This is a reason to fight for," Naruto said, and felt his wife's agreement through the bond. "We can give them a few days before we need to head back to Coruscant," Revan said, watching as the newly married couple stood taking pictures with the aid of R2. "I can't believe we couldn't find HK," she said. "He might have wandered off. You said he's done that before. He'll turn up," Naruto said, kissing his wife's temple as she leaned against him. She sighed. "You're worried about Skywalker?" Naruto nodded. "There is far too much anger in that boy, and I think it's a mistake letting him return to the Chancellor. He needs training." Revan had to agree with her husband. "I'll talk with Yoda. Maybe we can work something out with the Chancellor." Naruto smiled as Kushina bullied the Kenobis into more pictures. "What are you going to do about the Mandalore?" "Django's gone," she said, and their combined gaze went towards the young boy who was sulking. "He left young Boba in our care." "It'll work out, Rev-chan," Naruto said. He spun her out of his arms. "But for now, we celebrate. No more serious talks or thoughts. We'll have more than enough when we get home." Revan laughed as he spun her through a dance to music only they could hear. Coruscant, military staging area. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine stood on a balcony with Jar Jar Binks, Bail Organa, and several other senators looking down at the square below. Tens of thousands of clone troops are drawn up in strict formation or moving forwards in file to climb the ramps of assault ships. Everyone watches somberly as in the square loaded assault ships take off and others land to take their place. The sky above is thick with transports. Clone troops march and board the ships. The Great Clone War has begun. The end. To be continued. In Jedi Master Naruto, The Clone Wars. Chapter 46 Omake. Jedi Knight Naruto Omake. And cut! Naruto dropped onto the couch and yawned and stretched like a large cat. "Man, and I thought doing the scenes for my show was a rough schedule." Revan, who was coming back from the coffee machine, chuckled. "You should try doing it for a video game." Even though I wasn't actually on screen, the director pitched a fit when I showed up in my foxy furry slippers and pajama pants. The other members of the JKN filtered into the room. Some, like Yoda and Palpatine, walked towards their dressing rooms, while Jar Jar Binks and young Boba Fett made it to the buffet table. "So have they told you what the script is like for the new show?" Naruto asked as Revan sat next to him. Shaking her head while sipping her coffee, she looked at the blonde. "I hear the writer is having major issues in not only the writing but in his life. Ah man, he left everyone wondering about negative 47 Hong Kong dollars. Naruto complained. "And we were getting really good at working together." The pair looked to where HK was standing with C-3PO, R2 and the kids, and it was obvious they were playing several different games together. "Are they playing hot potato with a thermal detonator?" Naruto asked. Revan looked. "It's one of the dummy props," she said as 3PO missed and the detonator bounced out of the room, where moments later the studio was rocked by an explosion. The door opened and Anko Midarashi, who was wearing glasses and an outfit that looked like a Japanese schoolgirl uniform, entered. "Whomever threw that should know that they blew up the Gundam extras." A cheer went up as Anko continued. "However, it was the cardboard cutouts, so there were not fatalities." She walked in and smiled, seeing Naruto. "Hey stud, you ever coming back and leave Ms. I levitate my boobs with the force and play with the sharp pointy objects, and me of course?" Naruto chuckled. "I kind of like the sci-fi stuff." "What are you doing?" Anko mock pouted. "I was offered the role in the new zombie series." She shrugged. "I was told I might be joining you guys for some flashbacks in the future." "Joy," Revan said in a flat tone. "That might be a while. The author is taking forever to write the first chapter to our new story," Naruto said. "Oh? What's this one called?" Anko asked. "Jedi Master Naruto The Clone Wars," the blonde said. Anko smirked. "Sounds kinky. You get a harem?" Revan snorted. "He's happily married and has 3 kids." "Man, it sounds like you got castrated." "Hey, it's worse. Disney now owns Star Wars," Naruto said, which Anko busted out laughing as she looked at Revan. "So does that make you a Disney princess?" "Hell no. I don't sing and I like to blow shit up. I'd scar the Mickey Mouse Club for life." Anko was going to say something when a water balloon slammed into the side of her head. She turned to see the kids all point at Jar Jar. "That's it, dead Gungan." Anko stood and from thin air she pulled a cleaver-like sword and raced at the stunned alien. Binks screamed and turned to flee. "Ah! Me no se dosit! Mesa be frammed! Roast Gungan!" Naruto sighed and looked at Revan. So, until the author gets the next story started, what do you want to do? Revan smirked and straddled his lap. We could screw. Fanfiction doesn't allow that, Naruto said regretfully. Who said it had to be on camera? Revan asked and used a force push to destroy the camera.